known to be a sleepy town and now one of the fastest growing cities in the country. In this video, I'm going to explain how Conroe nearly doubled in size since the early 2000s. So you heard it right. Conroe is really one of the most bustling cities, and it's kind of crazy to think about because I lived in the Spring area growing up, which is south neighbor of Conroe, and Conroe was just always just known as a sleepy town. For that reason, it was just, it was kind of a little further out of Houston. There wasn't really so much things to do, shopping, things of that nature, but it couldn't be further from the truth now. And so what I want to lay out here are kind of my top 5 reasons why I feel that Conroe is going from this sleepy town to one of the fastest growing cities in the country. But before I lay these 5 reasons out, I want to kind of lay down the foundation for Conroe because it's actually really rich in history. When you go into downtown Conroe, which it does have a downtown, it's literally a Texas square. And so you're going to feel and see that history as you walk the city. And it's small, it doesn't take too much, and it is in that town square kind of style that you see a lot of Texas cities and towns, especially the older ones, kind of have that flow to it. But within the downtown area, we're currently revitalizing it. So the mayor here is very pro-business, pro-family. But again, before I go through those 5 points, talking about a little bit of the history of Conroe, as I told you, it's very rich in history. And as you go down, as you go through downtown Conroe, I should say, you'll kind of notice that history. There's a lot of monuments and things like that. Over by the library, we have all the flags and the monuments there. But also, just kind of going into the history of how Conroe was discovered, I think it was in 1881 or late 1800s, I should say. You had Isaac Conroe, who basically discovered the town, and it was built on lumber. It was I guess a lumber yard or lumber timber. It's a big timber town. And so those are the roots. That's kind of where it started. But it's also known as the Miracle City. So back in the Great Depression, where obviously everyone was struggling and where it was struggling, Conroe was actually had a quite thriving economy. It was booming because they discovered oil out here. So it was known as the Miracle City in the Great Depression. So a little bit of cool, rich history there. It goes way back into the 1800s when this, city was founded and where it started. But it's always been kind of this sleepy town ever since. Very laid back. And it still has that vibe. I'm not going to lie. I live in Conroe presently. And it's got a very laid-back vibe. I know that once you enter into Conroe, there's a little bit more of that laid-back tempo. You go to the local post office, things of that nature. You're just going to notice a different quality in people. They're not as much in a rush. It can be kind of frustrating at times. But, at the end of the day, everyone's just very friendly. You're going to have a very warm, inviting kind of vibe out here from everyone that you meet and run into. Everyone has that Southern hospitality, holding the door open for you and just kind of assisting you in anything that you need, from maybe pulling over, on the side of the road to help you with your flat tire to, like I said, maybe holding the door open for you. You hear a lot of yes sirs and no ma'ams. Everybody's just kind of that Southern hospitality. We bring the manners out here. And so you kind of have that country vibe, that Texas charm. Everybody's very, but at the same time, everybody minds themselves, right? So you're not going to be bothered. You don't want to be bothered. Everybody kind of lives and lives out here. So with that said, if you invite someone to a conversation, typically it goes really well. It's very friendly. It's very open. But if you want to kind of, remain yourself and, do your thing, run your errands, you can definitely do that. Now, Conroe offers everything from downtown and the Texas Square style downtown that you have with all your local shops and everything down there, boutiques and antique shops, things of that nature. But also it has all the big box shopping that you could possibly imagine. So we have Loop 336. The infrastructure of it's pretty cool. Takes you around the entire loop. In fact, anytime I have someone that's interested in moving to Conroe and they want to kind of catch a feel for what Conroe is like, I usually, one of the first things I tell them to do is to drive that loop because it goes all around Conroe. It's called Loop 336, and you'll get to see the west side versus the east side. And so the west side's a little bit more commercially developed. You've got a couple of master plan communities on that side, but really where it's popping and where it's happening now is on the east side, where there was not a lot of development, and you had just a lot of woods over there. And so now there's a lot of really cool stuff happening on the east side of 336, and kind of where I live on the southeast side. Lots of really cool stuff happening there. So now I did discuss the population growing. So from right now, as it stands, this was the 2022 consensus. I think we're right out around just over 100,000 people in terms of population. And as I said, that more than doubled since the early 2000s. So we were kind of sitting around 50,000 or less for every time before that in the early 2000s. But yeah, since the 2000s have kind of broken in, or since we've kind of entered into this new era, we've seen tremendous growth, especially in the last, I would say, decade in Conroe, just due to all the development out here that's attracting both residents to live here, but also, like I said, with Technology Park and things going on out in downtown Conroe with the revitalization, it's attracting a lot of businesses, both small and large. And so that's what's going on in Conroe. So now let me lay out the 5 top reasons why I feel Conroe is kind of going from this known as a sleepy town to one of the fastest growing cities in the country. The reason number 1 is going to be, I think, the obvious, Lake Conroe. So Lake Conroe is a man-made lake. I want to say it was made in the early 70s, and but don't quote me on that. And it's over 20,000 acres. So the entire southern side is developed. You're going to have a bulkhead, and you have this really cool marina on the south side, kind of in the Montgomery area. That's where your restaurants are going to be, your shopping. So if that's your vibe, if you want to catch a picturesque sunset, right off the lake with amazing views and have some really good food, go check out, Fajita Jack's or Imani's Lighthouse for some good old, Cajun seafood. But there's going to be just a really good, exquisite food, shopping right there off the marina. Now, you can rent a boat, you can rent a jet ski, you can ski, you can fish, you can swim. Lake Conroe kind of offers all of it. And so out of like the 3 main lakes, I would say in Houston, Lake Livingston is way larger, but it's way up in Livingston, which is approximately another hour plus outside of Houston. So it's way up there. And for that reason, I think it's less attractive. And then you've got literally Lake Houston down there kind of in the Humboldt, Atascocita, Kingwood area. And that one, you can fish, you can boat, but it's just not as recreationally friendly. It's also not as clean, I think is factual statement. So it's not really known to be like where you go and swim and things of that nature. And so with that said, I think Conroe, it really draws a lot of people in for that lake living. So you can literally live right off the lake. There's tons of real estate, amazing neighborhoods right off the lake, from Bentwater, and April Sound, which are gated communities, to, the peninsula called Walden. It's this entire kind of master plan community that offers everything from condominium living right off the lake all the way up into, single family homes into the 900,000 plus range. You really have everything in terms of Lake Conroe that it's offering you on the recreational side. Now, it's really split down the middle, or in half, I should say, by 1097. There's a highway a bridge that goes over it. And so on the north side of the lake, it's much less developed. It's going to be a lot more natural. So less waves. There's no bulkhead up there. So it's going to be calmer water. So if you're into getting into a smaller boat, maybe a canoe or a kayak, you want something a little more peaceful, you want to do some fishing out that way, or maybe you want to do some skiing, you're going to have less wavy, choppy conditions on that north side. And there's just all around less development. So there's not the restaurants, and it's just less crowded. And a lot of the communities are out on that side of the lake. And so you can have a little bit more of that private feeling if you want to be on, that side of the lake. That's where you'll want to be. So the lake living is great. A lot of people go out to Conroe just for that lake living alone. Now, number 2 is going to be beauty, and really just the lifestyle that the beauty and the outdoorsiness of it all offers. So kind of packaging that into the second point here. So we're just south of the National Forest. I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos. I'm a little biased, but North Houston is one of the prettiest areas of Houston because of the lush piney woods. And that's the nickname of this area, is the piney woods. I mean, there's tons of very mature, dense forests out here because of the National Forest that we're just below. And the lifestyle that brings, and the way that Conroe designed itself, or has been the infrastructure, a lot of the areas that you drive into Conroe, is gorgeous, and a lot of these trees are up. In fact, when I go out to my neighborhood out in Park Woods, on the southeast side of the loop, 336, there's just nothing but trees kind of encompassing you as you drive out to that area. And so, it's going to offer lots of outdoorsy activities. If you're into camping, if you're into hiking, you're going to find a lot of trails out here, a lot of camping grounds, not only in Conroe, but just north of it. So the proximity that it has to nature, and you're kind of immersed in it within Conroe, is pretty darn cool. Not to mention the lake that I just mentioned on my first point. So it's just very, very pretty, and it brings a very outdoorsy lifestyle. With that said, there's tons of public parks out here. I think 18 or so, close to 20, one in which is in my backyard, Carl Barton Jr. Park. I think it's 160 plus acres, so it's the largest park out here. You got Candy Cane Park right there in Conroe proper. It's got a nice little water park in there, a water slide. But you also have McCade Park with a playground, open field, and it even has a skate park, which I love. I'm actually still a skater to this day. I love the skateboard. I don't do as much of it anymore because if I go down, break a bone or something, I can't work. So I'm a little bit more careful, but growing up, I loved going out to these skate parks that are offered at a lot of these public parks that we have out here in the Conroe area. They're also out in Woodlands, and there's a couple out in the Spring area as well where I grew up. So there's just tons to do, all the public parks, all the outdoor living, the hiking, the biking, the beauty in general that Conroe brings. People are often captivated by it once they start heavily looking into the Conroe area and they come out for a visit. Now, number 3 is going to be the housing opportunity out here. But before I go into that, if this is your first time at the channel, thanks for being here. I'm so happy that you're here checking this out. Now, if you want to be notified for anything North Houston living, of course, you should subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click that little notification bell so that you're notified on my weekly video updates. My name is Mark Archer, and not only am I a local resident out here in the North Houston area, born and raised out here in the Spring area actually, but I'm also a local realtor. So for the better part of 4 years, I've been able to serve the local Houstonians moving all around Houston here, especially in the North Houston area where I live and what I'm familiar with, but also from far and wide, people moving all over the country and world into Houston, relocating here for obvious reasons. So if that explains you and you're looking to move to the Houston area, click the link below that's located in the description. Or, of course, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email so that we can get connected and better acquainted, because I would love to help you with that big move here to Houston, Texas. Now back to number 3, the housing opportunity alone brings a lot of people out here. In fact, as we start setting up as a realtor, when I start setting my clients up on housing searches, and Conroe was a part of it, I think a lot of times they find that there's a lot of opportunity out here, and a lot of the results that come up are in Conroe. So the housing opportunity, you're going to have homes all the way down into the $130,000s. That's right, you heard me right. $130,000 new construction homes. They are tiny homes, but they are located in Conroe. There's a DR Horton community selling some really cool new construction, smaller homes for $130,000. But you could also find homes all the way up into the $1 million plus, whether you want to be on land and acreage or you want that lake living. There's just tons and everything in between. I could think of 5 master plan communities just on the top of my head out here in the greater Conroe area. And I think a lot of developers choose to develop in Conroe, not only for the land that's available, but how beautiful it is. There are other similar master plan communities throughout the rest of Houston that, in my opinion, don't hold a candle to what's going on out here in Conroe because of what they do out here. In fact, a lot of the master plan communities, such as Grand Central Park, Evergreen, Ardavia, even Woodland Hills, which is technically Willis, but most of us know that's basically Conroe. They've done a really good job of preserving the trees. And so when you drive into these neighborhoods, they're absolutely gorgeous. You still have tons of mature trees that are everywhere. And they just have done a really good job of keeping those preserves and reserves of trees all around you in that neighborhood. So it offers some really cool housing opportunities out here. You can find everything from historic neighborhoods out there in kind of the Tanglewood area, all the way up to, brand new construction opportunities. And so I think that's what's bringing a lot of people in, especially people from the New England areas and, maybe some of the Midwest. They're coming in and telling me, hey, Mark, there's literally no new construction where we're at. We have nothing but hundreds of years old homes to choose from because of those areas were developed and founded. They go further back, of course, but there's no new land to build any new communities on. And so out here in Conroe, that's kind of what has brought a lot of the growth out here is we've been able to expand how many communities and homes that we can even offer to the public. And we still have a long way to go. In fact, most of the northeast side and the east side is still very much raw land, forest that is very dense and undeveloped. And so that's where a lot of these developers are starting to move now. And it's kind of waking up that northeast and that east side of the freeway of 45, if you're looking at a map, on Conroe with all the different opportunities that are coming up out there with these new developments. So it's bringing a lot of people out here for those price points that they're offering, as well as just all the different styles of homes that you can get. There's a lot of different affordable options. You can get, lake view options, all the things if you want to, the sky's the limit depending on what your budget is. We have all the way from $130,000 all the way to millions of dollars, right? Number 4 is going to be location. So again, it's very centrally located and it's got a really good infrastructure out here. You've got the Loop 336 that really interconnects you to all of Conroe. And you can even come down on 45. 45 will take you up into Dallas. Of course, you're just south of the National Forest. So if you're into the outdoorsy stuff, you want to go camping, you want to go hunting, you want to go hiking, that's all not only in Conroe, but there's opportunities there at the National Forest just above us, probably about 30, 45 minutes north of you. When you go south, you're probably about 30 minutes from the National Airport because Bush Intercontinental is pretty strategically located in the center of Houston, on the north side of Houston, close to 45. So you're probably about 25, 30 minutes, depending on the traffic and the time of day that you're trying to get to your flight. But that's really nice in terms of if you travel a lot. And then one of the main factors I love about Conroe is we are just above our neighbor, the Woodlands. So one of the things that, the Woodlands that maybe people won't tell you is that it's a little overcrowded. So the Woodlands is smaller than Conroe. It's a township, not a city. And there's more people. I think there's over 120,000 residents in that township alone. And so for me, because there's no new construction really offered in the Woodlands, because it was developed so many years ago, I was really attracted to the newer construction developments and the opportunity, not only for the affordability aspect, but the peace of mind of all the warranties that they offer and just knowing no one's ever lived in the house. I enjoy that. I like that opportunity. To each their own, whether you want resale or not, that's all available out here. But with that said, we are just north of the Woodlands. And so I live a couple of exits north of the Woodlands here. And if I ever want to, go to the mall, or I want to go to Market Street, or I want to go check out a concert at the Mitchell Pavilion, it's within a 15-minute drive for me. And so I can kind of get in and I can get out. And that's what I like. And I can kind of choose when I go into the Woodlands when it's less busy and there's less traffic, because it can get really congested out there. As I said, it's very overcrowded. There's a lot of people that live there, but also there's an influx of people like myself utilizing the amenities of the mall on Market Street and, the concert pavilion out there because it's just the best in all of Houston. And so it's right there. It's very close in proximity, and we can kind of get in and we can get out without having to deal with living in the overcrowded, smaller space of the Woodlands. And so out here, we have more space to spread out. Homes tend to be, a little further apart, and we can kind of just enjoy all those things around us in terms of location and everything in proximity around us. Now, the location not only attracts residents because of the housing opportunities and what you're close to in proximity to everything around you, but it's also, I think, again, attracting companies and, especially on the industrial side, small and large, with, the technology park that we have out there on the east side of Conroe. We have the regional airport, here locally in Conroe. And so the revitalization, all the things that is happening because of the location, and it is attracting a lot of people, businesses, and residences for the opportunity that's offered out here. Now, my fifth and final point, and I could go on, probably give you 10 points, but let's keep it to the top 5, right? For sake of time. The number 5 is going to be cost of living. Now, I think that's all perspective, right? I'm not going to sit here and claim that Conroe is the cheapest place to live in all of the country or world, but prospectively, a lot of my clients are coming from San Francisco or Washington or New England, New York, some of those areas where it's just so expensive. And so for the same amount of money, you can get quadruple the house. I had a client here from New York that was going to be selling, I think, a 2,200 square foot home in New York. He's in the Long Island area for, I don't know, some asinine number, $750,000, $800,000. Not a new home. I think it needs some updates. And he was just saying what property values have done out there is ridiculous. And so it's great to sell, but obviously it makes it really, really hard to afford anything out there if you're getting a 2,400 square foot home. I mean, my home is roughly about 2,100 square feet and it cost me under $300,000. So, there's just, there's perspective there. And, everything from housing to maybe the automobile or car that you purchase. I think those types of things are going to be cheaper. Not to mention, we don't have a state income tax. So while we do have higher property taxes than most places, that's how we pay for our local municipalities, right? Our police force, our firefighters, college campuses, the Lone Star College campuses that we offer that are public, as well as I think 95% of our taxes go to our school district. So living out here in Conroe, we have an A+ rated school district. That all kind of goes hand in hand with the taxes you pay and all that good stuff. So, with that said, a lot of my clients have expressed the cost of living out here in Texas and also Houston, where you get a lot more bang for your buck, it seems like, when it comes to housing and maybe some of those big purchases like a car or something like that. Now, I know we're all hurting. Inflation is everywhere. So obviously still going to the grocery store is going to hurt. It's still going to the big box stores and shopping. Still going to hurt. I mean, I think that's a nationwide issue right now that we're going through in 2024 with over 3% inflation. And I think we all know it's much higher than what those numbers portray. But with that said, prospectively, again, when you are tight with your budget, especially with, some of the areas that some of these my clients are coming from, this just offers a lot more breathing room for my clients when they're out here in the Conroe area. And they are quite surprised at, things like gas and just all the little things like that add up where they're saving money, especially when it comes to buying a home or rent or things of that nature. So the cost of living definitely has to be on there for the number 5 reason.